Well, gentlemen, thank you again so very much for your time and for joining us today. And I wanted to start off with a couple of non-sort of Death Cab related topics.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to throw these at you. First and foremost, a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure of seeing the Postal Service at Lollapalooza. I don't dance. I danced that night. So I just wanted to thank you for what was an absolutely incredible performance, and probably for the people around me that watched a terrible, terrible dancer dance. So that was awesome. And then also, I know, Ben, you especially are big baseball fans, and I'm right there as well. And you guys like keeping track of free agents and playing armchair GM and doing all that stuff as we get a little closer to the madness?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's kind of waiting for just kind of watching what the Mariners do with the new GM and trying to, rebuild this disaster of a baseball team we had in the Northwest. So, it's going to take a very long time, but I feel like I'm at least he kind of hit the ground running and is already starting to make some moves.
And you guys got Dipoto from Anaheim, right?
He was with the Angels. I guess he was in Anaheim until the spring, I guess, and then they got a new GM. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly kind of been busy, so that's a good sign.
Who do Mariners fans hate? Like, as a Cardinal fan, I hate the Cubs. Sure. I hate the Reds. Who do the Mariners hate?
I actually hate the Angels because the Angels are always good. Mm-hmm. They're in Orange County, which is kind of fairly insufferable. They have a garbage stadium
right
on the side of the highway. So yeah, I hate the Angels. I hate the Angels.
I'm not a fan either because the Albert Pujols thing kind of got me soured on that. Even though them paying him $300 million was a bit of a we didn't jump into that. You know what I mean?
Watching Mike Trout is kind of amazing, but I don't like watching him always beat up on the Mariners. But
absolutely,
yeah, I think the Angels more than any other team in our division I hate them.
Right.
But with sports hate though, sports hate's different than.
Absolutely, it's
real
like
hate.
It's like fake hate. It's certainly not real. Well, I was a bit of a Mariners fan when I was a kid because of the Ken Griffey Jr., A-Rod, Edgar Martinez things. You know what I mean? And just always been a team that I've kind of loosely, kept track of. They're in the American League, but
there hasn't been much to keep track of in the past 15 years.
Yeah.
Or so.
Well, I laughed because, or I didn't actually laugh at the time, but this year I had the opportunity to throw out the first pitch of the Cardinal game. And I've been a Cardinal fan since, I can remember. And I have never overthought something so much in my life that I did this first pitch. And so, I made the mistake of, Googling, celebrity first pitches. Oh, so I was completely in my head by the time that I got out to the mound. And I ended up brushing back our mascot, Fredberg. I almost put him in the dirt because I was gripping the ball too hard. So when I read that you would put one to the backstop, I kind of felt a little bit better.
Yeah, the funny thing is too is I up until not that long ago I pitched in an adult league. So
oh, wow.
I think but it's I think the problem is you're warming up somewhere at least at Safeco I was warming up in the catacombs of the stadium, and then you sit, you don't throw for 15 minutes, and then you have to throw off a mound. It's so mine was kind of low and away. I've certainly thrown better pitches in my life.
Yeah, I was just trying not to hurt you. I feel as though that I didn't, that's kind of automatically a win right there.
Yeah. Well, it's also, it's one of those things that you go to a baseball stadium and it's made to feel intimate from the stands, but then you're standing on the mound, you're like, this place is gigantic.
Yeah.
It's gigantic.
Yeah, and trying to not pay attention to all of that, as you're walking out there was crazy as well.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to switch gears, obviously, talk a little bit about Death Cab. And the thing that kind of has fascinated me a bit about watching you guys over the years, and especially recently, is, the Chris Walla leaving the band thing seems to have been, the most mature, gnarly, parting of ways. Did you guys kind of have an idea that it was coming? Did you maybe already have a plan kind of set in motion, if this happens, here's what we're going to do? Because it seems like you guys have, and you were already recording the new album when it happened. That's a lot going on. Did you have any indication that might be the way that it was going to go?
Yeah, it was something that we assumed would happen at some point. So it's not as if, it's not as if it was a huge shock to us. I think that, kind of given Chris's, the kind of musical projects and things that he's involved with, and always has been involved with outside the bands, and his desire to kind of, follow that pathway at some point. From a very early point, it was kind of something that we kind of assumed at some point would happen. So it wasn't a surprise, and I think we were able to kind of be all adults about it. So, yeah, it's like, I think, we were, it was a bittersweet kind of thing, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I very much believe in Jason and Nick and I's creative abilities, and certainly with the addition of Dave and Zach, I feel like, so long as I write good songs, we'll make good records. That's what it's always come down to.
Talk about what it's like when you've been in a band with guys for a long time. You already have that chemistry that's already built in. You kind of know each other quite a bit. And then you get these new guys. And I would assume that can breathe some new life in things, maybe freshen some things up, but it's got to also be a little odd when you're looking at guys, oh wait, hey, you're on stage with me. I'm not used to seeing you as much.
I suppose, I think for us in the beginning when we were looking for players to play with, chemistry was the most important thing. I don't think we ever had a doubt that we could find good players to play, parts and stand on stage with us. But, we have a deep friendship with Dave. He's been around in our lives sort of prior to even joining us on stage. Jason has a deeper connection with Zach and has kind of a built-in friendship. So they were two people right away that were on a fairly short list of, I think, people that we already sort of intuitively, I think, knew that we would have good chemistry with, and then it was just a matter of getting in a room and either seeing that bloom and work out or not. And I don't think I had a moment of reservation about either of those guys not being able to play the parts and uphold their end of the bargain. But as far as chemistry goes, that's been the best part of this tour and continuing to play shows with them. It has completely surpassed looking over on the stage and like you say, is this odd that there are these two people on stage? It feels like, I don't know, it just feels like it's exactly what it should be now, and the chemistry feels great, the energy feels really good, and that is really inspiring. It does bring a lot to not only material that we just recorded, but old catalog stuff as well, and I feel like it's kind of gelling perfectly.
Yeah, I couldn't be more happy with it.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure in '04 I saw you guys here at the Fox with Pearl Jam as a part of the Vote for Change tour.
That would be correct.
That would be correct. Yeah.
Will, with an election year looming, would you guys do something like that again for the right candidate, for the right cause, for the right thing? I mean, I feel like it's like kind of a delicate balance that you have to play because some of your fans don't necessarily want to hear the political talk, but then you want to, if there's something that you believe in, you obviously want to support it as best you can. Is that something that you guys would do next year if there was another Vote for Change?
Yeah, I mean, we'll kind of see how things kind of play out, as the election grows near. And yeah, I think that one of the most obnoxious kind of troll jobs that any musician or athlete or anybody who's in the public eye who's not a politician gets when they kind of talk about politics is like, stick to music, stick to baseball, stick to fill in the blank. And why would anybody? I would never tell a dentist hey, why don't you just stick to dentistry, pal?
Right.
Or car mechanic. Hey, just stick to being a mechanic, pal. I mean, these elections affect our lives, and will continue. And certainly, I mean, every election is important. This one coming up is going to be incredibly important. And given our political persuasion, we want to see the country head in a certain direction. And and we plan on being vocal about that. How we're involved, I guess, will be determined.
Yeah. Do you guys get overwhelmed a bit? Just kind of a random thing. Would you get overwhelmed by how early that this stuff starts now? Like, I'm not particularly ready to see debates a year before the election. It almost kind of seems like too much, almost.
I don't know. I mean, I think I've just gotten good at tuning it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. It's kind of just background noise right now, and I feel like it doesn't really bring anything positive into my life. It just serves to sort of frustrate me and get me a little more upset, and I've realized that I think that the lead up is good for their ad departments, and they're working on a different business model than information only. So I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm just not really. I'm aware of the sort of salacious things that are happening and things people are saying, and I'm constantly shaking my head at the things that show up in all my social media feeds. But I'm trying my best to kind of not really roll my sleeves up and get active until there's a clear, you know, there's a little bit more clarity in who's going to be.
I can't look away.
Yeah.
I mean, fascinated and, you know, more times than not kind of disgusted, and
It's horrible.
and it's just, it's going to be very interesting to see, you know, how the you know, Republican nomination shakes out.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very interesting, and so you know, I guess we can all just wait with bated breath and see how it all kind of turns out.
I try to stay away. I mean, I try to like keep a good balance of it, you know, because I just love to watch it a lot of times, so I can't help it. But I mean, sometimes, I mean, you talk about the things that you read and the things that's said, it's sickening. I mean, just absolutely sickening. So let's change it. Let's go to something way more.
Yeah, we can. I can continue talking about this. So I can say some things that might get me in trouble.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we're asking all of our bands that we've got coming through for Christmas shows is, you know, one of the things I find fascinating is your influences. Not only what you're listening to now, but, you know, maybe a couple of things that you listened to when you were younger that either directly affected or have influenced Death Cab For Cutie, or, you know, just influenced you to become a musician, so on and so forth. Do you guys remember? I'm sure you do. First show that you went to that like made an impact. Not just the first show when mom and dad brought you to see Journey or whatever, but like the first show that you went to that you were like, whoa, like really blew your mind sort of stuff.
Yeah, I saw when I was 14 or 15, I went to see the Sub Pop Ultra Lame Fest in Seattle, and it was like Mudhoney and Seaweed, Super Suckers, Pond, Earth, like a bunch of, you know, Mudhoney was headlining with a bunch of like the Sub Pop roster at that point. It was like 91 or 92. And that made a huge impact on me, but I think more than that, you know, when I was a kid living in Bremerton, the town across the water from Seattle, you know, we would take the ferry over to see shows, and, you know, there weren't a lot of all-ages shows in Seattle. There were some laws in the books that made it very difficult for people to put on shows. So there was essentially shows at the arena or shows at this like 200 capacity small venue along the waterfront called the OK Hotel. And going to see bands at the OK Hotel made a huge impact on me because, you know, growing up, when you live in the suburbs, and at the time, you know, the only connection you have to music is what's on MTV or on the radio, and that certainly at the time was, you know, spotty at best in relation to quality. You know, you're given the impression that in order to be in a band, you have to be larger than life. You have to be on stage in front of Marshall Stacks, hair blowing in the breeze and stuff, ripping a guitar solo. Right. And, you know, going to see bands at the OK Hotel, like Tree People and Hammerbox, and God, who else I see? The Gits. I mean, I saw all these bands there, and you know, at Sunny Day Real Estate, I saw early Sunny Day Real Estate shows there. You know, you just see the bands loading their gear up on stage, kind of setting their stuff up, you know, tuning their own stuff. And I mean, it's kind of silly to say now, but I mean, it was a huge eye-opener to me that, you know, people in bands were, you know, the guy who worked in the coffee shop, or, you know, worked in the bookstore, who was going to grad school or whatever. It's like that being in a band wasn't something that made you superhuman. It was just something you did because you couldn't not do it. And, you know, there was this whole world of music that, you know, playing arenas was not necessarily the goal.
Right, the end all be all.
Yeah, so that ethic made it. I mean, there are a lot of bands that I loved growing up, but like that kind of ethic and kind of scene that was happening in our backyard was, you know, really important to me, because having that connection with musicians and you know, buying the T-shirts and the records from them was, you know, an eye-opener to a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, what about you?
Along very similar lines, you know, I grew up in a small town about 45 minutes south of Seattle called Puyallup. The two moments for me were, again, I was in maybe 7th grade, and there were some 9th graders, just some skate punk kids that formed a band, and they set up their amps outside of our junior high, some kind of thing. I remember they had an after-school show, and the school let them plug their amps in and play, and they did a cover of Nina's 99 Red Balloons. And just, I mean, they were just a scrappy punk band, like, you know, but I just remember thinking, like, that's all you need to do is just get some friends together and get some amps, and you can do that. You can play music like that. You don't have to, like Ben was saying, you don't have to, you know, have spandex and big hair and do all, I mean, it was all about the energy of that, and it was just so much more real when you saw people that you new in other contexts suddenly hold instruments and play. And then later, in a few years later, I was at a Grange Hall and saw a Tacoma band, Seaweed, who were signed to Stub Pop, and that was the thing. Like, you could also get record deals. Like, you could also have real albums put out. It wasn't just that you existed in garages and played in people's backyards. Like, here was a band that suddenly was getting attention, and they had something real.
God, they were so good.
So
they were one of
good.
the greatest live bands I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I remember, again, just one of those things where you think, this is something that you could do.
Right.
It feels very real. And Ben's, the OK Hotel was a magnet for like anybody under 21, from any of the surrounding areas in Seattle and in Seattle to go and see shows. So, we would, try and get up there. I remember when a local band from Puyallup got a show at the OK Hotel, and that was a big deal. Like, oh my gosh, you can get a show in Seattle. But I mean, yeah, it was just weird stuff like that made, I feel really fortunate that I was kind of coming of age when the Seattle thing was sort of starting to happen, and it made music something so much more tangible and possible. Seeing people being kind of 1 or 2 degrees separated from that, it didn't seem like this magical other thing that happened in big cities somewhere else. So yeah, I mean that would be a few. Not to mention just the other show, like big name acts that would come to town that are your favorite bands. But those were real moments for me, like that made me think, oh yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, guys, I absolutely thank you so very much for your time. Really excited to see you guys tonight, and continued success to you. And continued success. Well, beginning of success to the Seattle.
Yeah,
Mariners
let's just
baseball
say
franchise.
maybe we can lay the seeds of success in 2016, and maybe in 2020 they'll come to fruition.
Well, yeah, I mean, you figure any team that's got King Felix, it's a nice place to start.
Yeah, I think the thing that's the most galling to me, not so much galling, there's one more little baseball,
Yeah, go ahead.
but it's so frustrating, is that we saw the Astros break their team down to, just like nuts and bolts basically, and build the whole thing up, and then find themselves in the playoffs this year. And it's been incredibly frustrating as a Mariners fan to see all of the missed starts and kind of failed signings and things like that. And I was talking to gentlemen backstage about the Cardinals and the Mariners, and one thing that's really admirable about the Cardinals is they've just been able to kind of build, they have been able to develop players, incredibly well. And I don't necessarily think that the scouting, it's not so much the scouting of these players, it's the development of these players. And the Cardinals did a wonderful job at it, and the Mariners did a terrific job at it. When you have maybe 5 of the last 6 kind of #1 draft picks fail to kind of even become replacement level players, it's like there's a real problem in that organization. So we'll see if they can change it.
Open invitation to join us for a ball game at Busch Stadium.
I'd love to.
Open invitation. I will not, and I won't shove in your face all the baseball heaven crap. It's just a great place to watch a game, and you're more than welcome. But gentlemen, thank you so very much. All right, very good.
Yeah, awesome.